Hey, this is Jordan Allen, London, Kentucky native and singer-songwriter, and you're listening to the Locally Branded Podcast, sponsored by Kemper Home Furnishings, where we explore the wins, losses, and everything in between of local people just like you.
Thanks again for tuning into the Locally Branded Podcast. Today, I'm pretty excited sitting here with a gentleman who needs really no introduction, but I'm thankful that you're here, man.
Glad to be here.
You know, we talked several times. You came and did our intro for our podcast, and it was, I think we decided then, hey, I need to come back.
Sure.
Come back talk.
Yeah.
But for those that may not know, go ahead and introduce yourself.
My name is Jordan Allen. I'm a singer-songwriter from right here in London, Kentucky, born and raised. And this season this past winter, February, I was featured on The Voice and got to be a cover man for the magazine. So I told my wife, I was like, I was on cover magazine. You're a lucky woman. Yeah,
that's good stuff. I actually brought a copy of it in. It's sitting here underneath that. I was talking to our last person on the podcast was Danny Campbell. I was talking to him, and he asked if I had any extra copies. I had a few left. I had a couple left I could keep back. I always like to keep a few of them back, but I brought one out this here. But that was around that same time. I think you just come back off The Voice, or during while it was airing, I think is when it was. But I'm super excited to have you here, man.
Glad to be here.
It's with what we're doing with Leadership Podcast, and that's kind of the direction I'm heading with everything. Is I want to be able to show the area that there's all different walks of life that come through that can be inspired, or that can start from something, and I honestly, I want people to know your journey, right? You didn't just wake up one morning and be like, hey, here I am, I'm on The Voice. I'm not, you know what I mean? There's a process to a lot of it. So,
yeah.
And I don't just want to talk about just you going to The Voice, but I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit, like when it comes to, your journey with music. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, tell me, like, when did you decide, hey, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, I mean, I always, like, growing up, my dad was in bands, and like when he was growing up, so like the late '60s, early '70s, and so growing up, he had a guitar out, and he would sing and play in church, and so I was just that was kind of my introduction to people, being around music. And then lady that babysat me, local here, her name is Pearl Markham. Her family was very musical, and so like her son Jerry, he was a songwriter in Nashville for years, had a lot of cuts in the '90s. And then they had this like like a sizzle reel family tape, right? And it was like Jerry on Nashville Now and Jerry playing the songs, and so like seeing somebody that I knew, I would see him at Christmas. He made a living for himself, and so I kind of had that exposure as well, as far as the commercial side, and started playing drums around 6. About 14, I picked up the bass. My dad needed someone to play with him in church, and so I started playing. Or I guess I was about 13, and then 14 picked up the guitar. 15 joined choir in high school, and it was about 16, 17 years old that it was like, well, I don't want to do anything else. Like for the rest of my life, I knew I would do that. And at some point, you put all your eggs in a basket. Mine was pretty early. All these other kids, like, I played sports in high school, and I mean, I wasn't great, but I probably could have went and played at a smaller college. Like, I played goalkeeper, and friends were pursuing that, and friends were pursuing, academic endeavors, pre-med, all that. So I didn't want anything to do with that.
Yeah.
So I felt like all my eggs were in a basket, and just, I've just been going full. It's all I've ever known. It feels like, for 16 years of my life, this is what I've been doing, and it's kind of what people know me as, the guy that plays music.
Well, I tell you the funny part of that, we talked last time, on the last episode, we talked about the different hats people wear, right? And that's kind of how you and I met. Like, you and I met because of one of the other hats that you wear, and hopefully it's all right we talk about it.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
And I'll just hit on it real quick, but, with what I do with the London Neighbors magazine, I was reaching out to different business owners, different industries and things. and you and I decided to sit down and have coffee. I think it was at Love is Real coffee
Uh-huh.
shop. We were sitting down there, and it was about your real estate.
Mm-hmm.
You hold a real estate license, am I right?
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
and it was about a realtor. And at the time, I hadn't honestly. I was under a rock for the bigger part of my adult life before doing all this, right? So I hadn't really heard much of who you were. I knew you were a realtor here in the area, and I wanted to sit down and talk with you about what we were doing. And one line will always stick with me. And this was months before The Voice. This was months before, and you probably already knew. I didn't. I had no idea. Maybe not.
I can't remember if I did or
Yeah.
not. I can't remember exactly when it was.
But we had talked about the things we were doing. And he was like, I'm really going to hold off on this for now because I want to focus on my music career.
Mm-hmm.
And I let things be what they were, and wished you the best with it. And at that point, I started looking up like, what does he mean his music career? Because I didn't know. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And then, sure enough, a couple months later, I see this Jordan Allen's going to be on The Voice, and I'm like, he wasn't lying. He wasn't lying. He was focusing on his music career, like
Sure.
look what he's doing.
Sure.
That was kind of a full circle moment for me. Like it was like, he told me this. He told me he was going to focus on his music career to begin with. Just to, for now. And man, if you didn't do it, like you didn't, like it's. I was glued to the TV watching it, like I'm sure everybody else was. So congrats on that too, man.
Thank you.
Like it was, that was something. But that's kind of how you and I met, and it was with talking with how we're doing here with the leadership stuff, is you have to have a dream, you have to have a goal set in place, right? And you kind of got to let nothing get in the way.
Yeah.
If you let things get in the way, it'll take you. You won't get nowhere. It's just the best way to put it. It's the way that I see it.
Absolutely.
If you let things.
Yeah.
But to me, it was seeing that. It was seeing that you had a goal in mind. You even voiced it to me. It was like, hey, I'm going to focus on this.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm going to do. And you hadn't turned around since then. It's been fantastic. But let's talk. I want to talk briefly just about the trip, like to The Voice, just briefly, because I want to focus more on you personally. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess my big question for everything is how was it working with John Legend? Like and I'm sure you probably answered this 1,000 times.
I have, yeah.
But
it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, again, I stay under a rock for the most part. But
Sure.
just to kind of know, like, how was it working with him?
Yeah, it was great. Without saying too much, to pull back the curtain,
Sure.
it's like you do get an allotted time, and that's it. That's it's kind of all that you get. I'm sure if you get past that, maybe like the finals, they probably spend a little more time together. But so I didn't spend a whole lot of time with him, but yeah, it was cool. I picked John for several reasons, but one I want to touch on right now is, him being a songwriter who writes from the piano. My choral director was a piano player. So I knew several piano players growing up, and I always felt like their ear was, just better than a lot of other, maybe just guitar players. And I don't know what that is. That's probably not even true, but that's what I felt like. And so, I just felt like he had a good ear, and he's a songwriter. And so, when we worked together, we did talk about, bringing together a song and, our favorite parts of songwriting. And so it was cool, It was great. I would say, more or less that show will take the skills that you already have and figure out how to amplify that, as opposed to teaching you new things.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or, new things from scratch.
Yeah.
But it was an overall very positive experience, and, I would, if I had a time machine, I'd 100% go back and do it again.
Do it again. So. Yeah, that's awesome. So your journey with music is pulling some lessons out of that, right? Like the way I'm thinking here is like pulling the lessons out for the next generation. Like what's something that you could give the next generation that's going to be like, hey, if I can give you one piece of advice with what your journey should be or what your journey can be, what would be a good life lesson for that?
I think something that benefited me and still benefits me today is the work ethic that my dad instilled in me and my mom. I see a lot of people who are extremely talented that have no work ethic, that don't go anywhere. And I see a lot of people who are not extremely talented and go very far because they have a strong work ethic. Mm-hmm. I believe hard work beats talent every time. I really do. So I would just say, have a good work ethic, and don't give up, because there's a lot of things that'll come up in your life in any industry, anything that you're doing, that you can think, well, I can't do this anymore, or because this happened. And that's not true. You can always do what you love. It may not be in the capacity that you have in your brain. But just an example from my life, I graduated from Western with a marketing degree, and I went to London, back home. It wasn't a lot for a marketing degree, so I got a part-time job at BB&T, now Truist.
Mm-hmm.
I was working 20 hours a week. That's what I was hired for, and the job kind of changed. I was working 40 hours a week when I signed up to work 20, and I didn't have as much control over my schedule. And my wife was like, "Well, you should just quit and do music." And we didn't have any kids at the time. And I was like, "Okay." So I worked my way up to that, figured out how I could do it, and I quit. My last day at BB&T was September 28th. And on November 4th, I found I was going to be a dad. And
that'll change your life, won't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it should. If it doesn't, there's a problem. It should change your life.
Yeah.
But I had that crossroads of like, well, do I go beg for my job back or do I just keep doing this? And I didn't want my daughter, I didn't know it was my daughter at the time, but I didn't want my daughter to grow up and see that I quit trusting God in that moment. And so, through prayer, I just, I was like, Lord, this is what I want to do, and I think I'm going to be okay. So change my mind if I don't need to be doing this. And, that was 7 years ago. So I've been doing music as my primary source of income ever since then. And then, I've picked up real estate. I've picked up mow lawns here in town for a guy named Dustin Hampton. And but I think that is something that I would say is don't quit and work hard. Because with those two things, I think if you never quit, at some point you're going to be one of the only people that didn't quit, and then you can be successful. It's a grind, but don't quit.
I think that's one of the biggest things that I've had to learn along the way is consistency. Right? To be consistent, like even if it's getting up every day and doing the same thing over again and over again until you get not really so much perfection out of it, but until you get comfortable doing it, not comfortable and growth, personal growth with it. It's just stay consistent with it. You mentioned your dad a while ago, and I'm gonna talk about this for a minute because this is another moment for me. Like I lost my dad several years ago. I worked in the coal mines. He was a concrete finisher for the coal mines. And when I came and delivered your copy of the magazine to you, it's the first time I got to meet your dad, which was kind of cool because turned out he knew my dad, which we're all connected, right? It's like some way or another we all know each other, And it was just, I don't know, it's a good conversation. And you mentioned God, and that's, to me, that was one thing that really stood out more to me than anything, is that I think God puts people in your life for a good reason, for a certain reason. And there's moments I'll miss my dad. Obviously, there's moments that wish that he was here, but then there's moments that people that knew him will mention him without me even thinking about it, like your dad did, and it's like, hey, this was not so much meant to be, but kind of was.
Sure,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
So I use that with business. I use that with leadership, with the journey of people. Like you got to trust in God. You have to put him somewhere, not just somewhere there, but you got to put him first. You got to trust the process with him as well. But it was really cool to meet your dad. Like it was, he's a cool cat. Like he's
man, I'm so blessed in the parents department. I'm telling you, I grew up with a lot of people that just weren't, and from an early age, I knew how blessed I was. Yeah.
It was very cool to meet him, man. It was. I don't know. Again, it was a surreal moment for sure. For me, just happening to mention, my dad with stuff and him kind of being able to relate to it. It was a emotional moment to say the least. I won't say that when I got back to the truck, I kind of teared up a bit, but I did.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I get it.
You know what I mean? For sure.
Yeah.
But that was another big thing too with doing this podcast. I didn't want it to be something so formal with stuff. And again, I'm doing it ugly when it comes down to it. I think with anything with business, you kind of you have to do it ugly till you do it good.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mentioned what I want it to be more than anything is just like front porch talking, just us sitting on front porch talking in general. And I kind of want it to lead to that with mine and your conversation here is I want the next generation to be able to see that from all different walks of life, anything's possible.
It is.
You don't have to have a certain playbook. You don't have to have a certain rule book that you have to follow. But it does help to have guidance along the way.
Yeah.
So speaking about guidance along the way, I'm curious, like who is the best, not really the best person, but what kind of guidance did you get along the way to get to where you're at?
That's a good question. I feel like I picked up little bits here and there. You know, I think coming in it, neither one of my parents ever had any experience in the music industry. I mentioned my dad was in bands, but it wasn't anything like I was trying. I'm trying to do, and so my dad is he's always given me good advice just because I believe every business is a people business. My dad sold for Continental Conveyor for years, and people do business with who they like.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, and that's very true in music. It's like there's plenty of talent, but who do I like? Who do I want to put on this bill? And so, I've talked to him, a lot about that, and just making, just doing good business. My dad always did good. He did his best to do ethical, good business, and that's just because he serves Jesus Christ, and I think if you're a believer, that's what you should seek to do. Even if you're not a believer, I think it's a good practice.
Yeah.
So him in that aspect, and then I mentioned a guy named Jerry Markham earlier, and he is like family to me, non-blood family, but he's family. And I'll still call him to this day.
Yeah.
I'll ask him any questions, and he kind of exited that commercial songwriting world in like the early 2000s, but he'll tell me what he knows. And his brother Lonnie lives here in London, and we chat music every now and then. And there's some bands like growing up when I was in like high school. There was a little band from Philmont, North Carolina, called Philmont, and I became friends with the guitar player Josiah, and I pick his brain. Just other than that, it's kind of a lot been like that. Nick Jamerson, I play bass for him, and I'll pick his brain all the time about well, how do you do this? How do you do that? And so a lot of people have been placed in my life that are willing to have that philosophy of all ships rise with the tide. Some people can keep that information close because they're afraid of, I don't know. I don't even want to call it competition because in the music industry, I don't view it as competition.
Yeah.
Not one person you meet is like, well, I only like Garth Brooks, and I will not listen to anybody else. I mean, competition is kind of silly when you think about it in the music industry, but some people have that mentality. But I've just been blessed to be around people that don't.
And it makes a difference to surround yourself with the people of likeness, if that makes sense. Like with music, and that's something with what I'm doing here. Like before all this, I didn't really surround myself with any kind of leadership. Like when it comes down to, like, of course I have fantastic parents. Like I wouldn't trade them for anything. When it comes to the business side of things or how to do certain things, like leadership wise, I wanted to surround myself with those type of people, right? And when you surround yourself with a like mindset, it's growth. It helps you grow. Like, how can I do better? Not so much competition, but how can I personally get better? Your personal growth, right? Quick question though: what kind of music did you listen to growing up?
Well, we weren't a big country household. I say this a lot on stage, but if I got country music growing up, it was Alabama from my mom, or Don Williams from my dad, or Randy Travis, specifically gospel record.
Gospel, yeah.
Down with the old man, up with the new. But so my dad loved the Eagles, CCR. My brother loved the Beatles. So my mom loved Rod Stewart. So like that's what I was listening to growing up. Probably till I could pick my own music. And then from that point it was Kings of Leon, huge Kings of Leon fan still to this day. The Avett Brothers. I don't know if have you ever heard of them?
No, I'm not familiar.
They're from Concord, North Carolina, and they're like one of these bands that not many people know who they are, but they live a real comfortable life. Like they have they're just that fan base. Like I think they're for the most part pretty independent.
Yeah.
My son's name is Avett, as we named him because our first dance was a song called, me and my wife's first dance when we got married, is a song called All My Mistakes by the Avett Brothers. So big fan of them. A pretty wide net, but I think that's the hits growing up.
There was a couple of things I wanted to mention with that. It's kind of, again, I kind of got kind of the chills. Well, just for a second, because we were talking about dad and stuff earlier. I grew up listening. I'm the younger. I'm the youngest of all of our brothers. There's four of us.
Okay.
I was the youngest. But dad would always be the guy sitting in the living room watching VH1. Like he watching, remember the VH1? Like
yeah.
So he'd be watching it. It'd be the different music like Simply Red. He'd be listening to Simply Red. He'd get a kick out of Prince. Like just the thought of it. But my brothers I grew up with, they're my stepbrothers, right? But I was raised with them since I was 5, so they're my brothers. There's no blood, but you couldn't tell the difference. Their mom, unfortunately, passed away in a car accident. Been several years ago, but her favorite singer was Rod Stewart. Yeah, so when you mentioned it, I was like, I got chills for a second. I was like, it's amazing, man. It's just, again, I think God puts people in your life on purpose.
Sure,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? I mean, for good conversation and for other things. Best place to find your music at, man?
I would say only because I have Spotify for artists. I would say Spotify. None of the streaming is going to give us any money, you know. People want to hate on all that stuff, and I'm just going to stay neutral and say,
There you go.
Spotify, Apple, any streaming platform. But
Yeah.
I feel like I have a little more control of my Spotify page, I suppose. So yeah, that. And then you can follow me on all the socials. It's Jordan Allen Official, all across Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And so from there, it's like I'll post, covers that I do and brand new songs. Like I posted a song this week that I wrote 2 weeks ago.
I was going to ask you about that one.
Yeah, CJ Solar. CJ has a double platinum cut, which that was really cool to get to write a song with him. A song called Up Down by Morgan Wallen and Florida Georgia Line. And so it was an honor to get to step in a room with CJ. We actually wrote 2 that day, and I may cut the other one because it's really good too. But I'll post stuff like that on my social media, and that's nice. And then we, how much time we got? Real close.
We're getting there. We're almost there.
Well, I'll be posting.
Play one?
I can. I was going to mention
we
played the federal prison, and I will be posting some videos from that in the coming months.
That had to be fun.
It was incredible. It
had to be fun.
It was the greatest thing I've ever done with my gift ever.
Was it a Johnny Cash moment, or was it better?
It's for Johnny Cash moment. I felt like Johnny Cash. I wore all black. But that'll be coming. Like the videos will be coming to social media, and then we cut a live record, so that's going to be coming to Spotify.
Dude, I can't wait.
Me neither.
I'd say not. I can't wait.
Humbly and not so humbly say, I don't know. I don't personally know anyone else that's played. You can play at Brushy Mountain, but there's no inmates.
Yeah.
Okay, I played to inmates.
How many?
It was cool.
Was there?
250 at the male population,
Wow.
and right around like 210 at the female
Dude,
population.
how was that? Let's talk about that for a second. I mean, I know we're probably cutting close on time, but like for real, like, was it nerve wracking? Was it like? I mean,
No, it wasn't nerve wracking because I knew if anything went south,
yeah.
they're not gonna get us.
Yeah.
We're trying to give them a gift. You know what I mean? They're like, oh no, you're cool.
You're for us,
Go get the car.
Yeah.
So I wasn't nervous about it at all. But it was a long day. I got there at 8:30 and I left at about 5 or 6 maybe. And that was after 2 shows. And then there's an old auditorium which is very historical there. It's at the FMC in Lexington. And we did 3 songs. Just me in the auditorium, and so I've already posted one, but I've not really talked about it as Ever Since You Done Me Wrong.
Yeah,
that was in the auditorium, and then I also did Four Walls of Rayford, Skinnerd, and Because He Lives, that old hymn. But yeah, I said it was the greatest thing that I've ever done with my gift, and that is absolutely rings true. I feel like when I played that day, I'm not going to say it's the thing that God put me on earth to do, but it is one of the things that God put me on earth to do. Felt such a connection with them, and they were so appreciative. This guard said, you have to think about this. Some of these people haven't seen live music in 10 plus years. Some of these people, if you don't come back, or if no one comes back, they will never see live music again.
Jeez.
And that put it into, I was like, man.
Wow.
What a blessing it was to be put in that position to get to give those people that gift. So it was great, and if you've seen one of my shows, at the end I'm going to play a song called Fly, and that's a spiritual song for me, and I talk about the gospel, and I got to talk about it more freely in there. Not that I can't outside, but I felt more of an urgent need to talk about the freedom of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And so that was incredible. It was just incredible
It's
to
amazing,
get to.
man.
Yeah.
Oh man, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah. So it's cool. Live stuff coming.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
I
check
really
it out.
can't wait, man.
And then if we're not, I'll play if you want. I'm also cool with skipping if I don't know. But I'm also doing a vinyl release. You and I talked about this here in town at Love Is Real. Date to be determined. We're going to wait for a little bit, but I wanted to put that on radar if you're listening. There's going to be 2 songs never before heard on this vinyl release. So
yeah, and when you get the date, I'll make sure we also post it on our social media as well for people to be there. I'll definitely be there. I'll be there hands down.
Cool.
And I'll try to bring a crowd with me.
Yeah. Well, I need to talk to Al at Love Is Real because I'm like, how big do you want to blow this up? Because it's.
Oh yeah.
I counted the chairs while I was in there the other day. I think there's like 20 seats. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to overwhelm them, but
Made some pretty good connections with a lot of good business owners around here with what I do. I mean, not saying that area is not going to be perfect. It's ideal. I mean,
sure,
yeah.
yeah.
But if it gets to be too big, whatever I can do to help collab and
Yeah.
help you,
Okay, cool.
I'll do what I can.
Cool.
You know me. I'm
Well, we definitely want to keep it there, and you know what? If the worst thing that happens is they sell a ton of coffee, then
what's the worst case, right?
Exactly.
There's nothing like a good cup of coffee, though. You know
Man,
what
I
I'm
love
saying?
that place. It's so good. Yeah.
It's good. Well, listen, I appreciate you being here.
Yeah,
I do.
glad to be
I wish we had more time.
Me
I
too.
mean, we'll have to come back and just do it again.
Episode 2.
When it comes to episode 2, yeah, for sure. But thanks again, man. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Appreciate you.
And it's whatever you want to play, whatever you want to do, man. Let's give the people a little taste of what they can expect to hear on the upcoming or on what you have out.
Yeah. Well, I think I'll play that song I wrote with CJ, or one of them that I was talking about. I'll give it a little intro. So, when I was growing up, I worked for Laurel County Board of Education in college, and I had this buddy who his parents had a big field, and every so often we'd go down there and we'd have a bonfire and do it, 20, 21-year-old, 19-year-olds do. And but there's this one buddy, I had Jared, and we figured out that let me preface this with you two. If you need to cut this part out, that's fine. We figured out, if you just want the song, that's fine. We figured out if you, what's the word? Kind of coaxed some of the dudes there.
Yeah.
And been like, I bet you can't drink that all that fast. Yeah.
When
you
dudes
definitely
get
can.
together, right? Like it's
Yeah, well, they would, and then eventually they would be none the wiser about where those bottles were of this or that, and so we figured out we could just like coax them into getting there a little too quick, and then we'd go snag the unattended bottles. So this song's called "Corn from a Jar." I'd give John Joe a $20 bill, or John to take care of me, 'cause he had something that none of us had. Oh, John had a fake ID. John Joe's daddy had a herd of cattle and a pasture out of town. When he and the missus went on vacation, we burned that sucker down. Hey, ooh, give me that under the stars. Ooh, give me them Swisher cigars. Ooh, give me that take it too far. Ooh, give me that corn from a jar. I tell them boys from across the tracks, bet you can't throw 'em back. Get them acting up a fool so we could steal that bottle of Jack. By the time they were passed out in the truck beds, the girls were saying, Daddy gonna kill him dead. I said, darling, you might as well stay, 'cause your daddy don't know my name. Ooh, give me that under the stars. Ooh, give me them swishers of God. Ooh, give me that take it too far. Ooh, give me that corn from a jar. I ain't always reminiscing, but every now and then I get to missing. Ooh, give me that under the stars. Ooh, give me them swishers God. Ooh, give me that take it too far. Ooh, give me that corn from a jar.
Listen, I told you this before. I told you this not long after we first met. It's a good spot for you at Kentucky Music Hall of Fame. You're going to be there one day.
Well, I hope you're right. I feel like that is a pretty... there's a few songs in my repertoire that are, I feel like, completely bred out of growing up in Laurel County, and that's one of them.
That's fantastic, man.
So I'm proud of that one because of that. So,
listen, thank you so much, man.
yeah, man,
Thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here.
Again, we're gonna have to do a second episode.
I'll be here.
There's, Danny talked highly of you, like after our first podcast episode, and he had mentioned maybe moving the setup to a football field. I think maybe moving the setup to a stage one day.
That would be cool.
Maybe episode 2 comes from a stage.
That'd be really cool. You figure out a way to do live audio for a whole band and
Yeah.
have that be a part
I've
of
got
it.
the connection. I can probably make it happen.
Yeah. Well, you just holler at me. I'll be here.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Jordan. Thanks,
Cool.
man.
Thank you, brother.
All right, talk to you soon. One of the biggest truths about leadership is that it's not just about what you do, it's about who you bring out in other people. Think about it. Every great leader you've ever known had someone who believed in them first, someone who saw potential they couldn't see yet. That's what leadership does. It multiplies belief. This week with a challenge, I want to challenge you to slow down. Look around and ask yourself, who needs to be reminded of what they're capable of? Because sometimes the most powerful thing a leader can do is to hold up a mirror to someone and say, look, this is what you already are. Let's talk about that for a moment and how you can do that from right where you're at. Here's the next Take It With You challenge. We're going to call it Be Someone's Mirror. Find one person who needs encouragement. Think of someone who's trying really hard but may not realize how much they're growing. It doesn't have to be anything major. It could be something simple. It could be a new employee still finding their foothold, a student learning responsibility, right? It could be maybe it's a parent who's gelling a lot quietly, maybe it's a teammate improving little by little each day at every practice, in every game, a local volunteer making things happen behind the scenes. Those type of things. Leadership means seeing potential in people before they see it in themselves. The second part of this that I want to talk about is it's super important that you tell them what you see. This week, look at them, go and look them in the eye. Or if you're not comfortable yet with that, send them a text message, a call, or a handwritten note and say something specific. Say something like, I've noticed how consistent you've become. That's leadership. You make people feel heard, and that matters. Or something along the line of, you're setting an example, even if you don't realize it. Be their mirror. Reflect their strengths back to them.
The third part of this challenge this week that I want you all to do is to commit to checking back with that person. You know, great leaders follow through. It's really simple. Just mark your calendar to check back with that person in a week or two, or a few weeks even, and ask how they're doing. Not to hold them accountable like a boss or a manager, but to remind them that they're seen, that they're supported, and that they're capable. You know, that kind of presence builds confidence, and let's be honest, confidence builds leaders. So let's talk for a moment why this challenge matters or why it's important. You know, leadership isn't about the spotlight, it's about reflection. You know, when you reflect someone's potential, you help them see what's possible. And when they start believing in themselves, they begin to reflect that onto other people. You know, we've seen that with Jordan's story here with his parents. I think they were a good mirror for him, you know. So how is that leadership? You know, it takes and it multiplies, you know, not through position or through power, but through encouragement and help spread that across generations. You know, I wanted to thank again Jordan Allen for coming to the podcast today, and thank you all so much for listening. Thanks, and God bless.